This video was sponsored by JLC PCB. Hello everyone, you may have seen my previous video in which I've made a PlayStation VR inspired Steam VR headset. It was a pretty fun project to make, but I've decided now it's time for an upgrade. This is Persephone 2. It's my own Steam VR headset, which is fully compatible with all Steam VR games and has positional tracking and controller support, all thanks to the Hades VR firmware. Today I will show you how you can make one yourself. I've started by grabbing the Hades VR Remix HMD PCB that I previously designed. This time I wanted to make it more compact, so I changed the components versions to as small as possible. The final version, as you can see, is way smaller than the original board. So now that I have the finalized PCB version, I can order some prototypes from the JLC PCB. First I will prepare the Gerber files. Of course you can get those on my Patreon page if you would like to order some PCBs for yourself. Now that I have the Gerber files ready, I can open the JLC PCB website and place an order. The whole process is super simple. First you upload the Gerber files, wait a second for it to upload, and now you can see your PCB prototype. Here you can change all of the PCB stuff like thickness or solder mask color. Once you're done with the changes, just click Save to Cart and place the order. As always, the package arrived very fast. There was absolutely zero issues with the shipment. Everything was packaged safely in nice blue cardboard box. As you can see, every time you order the PCBs, they come in marked vacuum sealed bags. There is absolutely zero chance for moisture to getting inside. Each time you order the boards, you get at least 5 pieces. This is super handy when you mess up one of the boards. The board build quality is super high-end. You can easily see all of the traces and even the smallest vias. The black solder mask looks absolutely amazing. Okay, so now let's assemble the board. First I will cover the whole board with flags. This will make the soldering way easier. Now I will cover all of the pads with solder. I do it this way since I'm using hot air station to solder all of the components. After covering the board with solder, it's good to clean off all of the spare flags with IPA alcohol. Now that the board is ready for soldering, I will transfer all of the original components from Arduino Pro Micro, MPU board and some smaller stuff like resistors and capacitors. After about 30 minutes of soldering, I now have complete headset board. I've already uploaded Hades VR firmware and calibrated the gyroscope. You can see it here that it works perfectly. You can even change the LED color with the stacked switch right here. If you don't know what the LED is for, it's being used for the positional tracking. So now let's move to the plastic parts. As always, I'm using regular PLA. This time I've made everything black. It should go nicely with all the accessories that I bought from AliExpress. First, let's assemble the lenses. I will be using the same lenses as in Persephone 1. You can easily buy them on AliExpress. Of course I will put some links in the description in case you want to buy them. The lens installation is very simple. You basically push both lenses into this big piece. The more flat sides of the lenses should be facing towards your face. With two lenses in place, you can close them up using those really thin plastic rings. This basically prevents them from falling out. I will attach the rings to the plastic frame by melting both pieces with my soldering iron. Of course you can use hot glue if it's easier for you. With the rings installed, there is absolutely zero chance for the lenses to fall out. And now the lens module is pretty much finished. Now let's assemble the headstrap mounts. For this you will need the main visor part and 2 strap mounts. And of course, couple of self-tapping screws. The installation is pretty simple. You put the screws inside the holes first, and after that, you screw the plastic piece to the main visor part. And now this side of the headset is finished. Now install the second strap holder onto the other side. And now the main visor is pretty much complete. Of course it will need some kind of face padding to make it comfortable. But first let's assemble the front cover. This is the part where all of the important electronics go. I already have my Persephone board ready and I've soldered couple of power wires to the display driver board. This way I can use only one USB cable to power all of the electronics. The display driver board comes with the display when you buy it on AliExpress. Just make sure you get the same one. Of course, I will put a link for it in the description. Before installing the Persephone board, I will have to remove the RGB LED. The pins are way too short to make it all the way to the top of the headset. The RGB LED goes directly through this hole right here. The hole is a bit loose, so it's a pretty good idea to use a hot glue to hold it in place. When using hot glue, make sure that the LED stays in correct position, otherwise there will be problems with positional tracking. It may not be super pretty, but now LED stays in place. Of course it still wiggles a bit, but it won't fall out. With the LED in place, it's now time to install the Persephone board. The PCB goes onto this aisle right here and is mounted using two self-tapping screws. I've also made those small plastic washers that will hold the PCB in place. Make sure not to tighten the screws too much, as this could damage your board. And now the Persephone PCB is installed. It's best to connect the USB cable at this step. If you skip this part, you will have a lot of trouble with putting the cable in correct position. Also make sure that the cable goes through the hole on the headset. This is very important. Now we can install this plastic frame. This part holds the display driver board in correct position. I've used 4 self-tapping screws to install it. Make sure that your USB cable is routed the same way I've did it. It should go underneath the plastic frame. With all of this done, we can solder the wires between the Persephone board and RGB LED. I've used 4 Kinnar wires to connect everything. Now it's time to install the display driver board. This board goes directly on top of the plastic frame. Make sure that the power wires go underneath the plastic piece. When the board is properly aligned, you can use self-tapping screws with washers to hold it in place. This time I've skipped one of the screws, since I didn't have the washer for it. It's totally fine to use only 2 screws. And now we can install the display. It's the same one I've used in the very first Persephone. I've put some masking tape on the other side to prevent any short circuits. The screen is also cracked on the corner. It works fine, but there is a colored line on the bottom part of the display. First thing you wanna do is install the display inside this plastic frame. Make sure you remove the support material. The display goes into the frame like this, but you have to install it from underneath. You should now have something like this. Now connect the FFC cable to your display. With the FFC cable connected, you can install the display on top of the main plastic part. Just make sure that the FFC doesn't go over the holes. And now you can use a couple of self-tapping screws to connect both pieces together. You should now have screws all around the display. Also make sure that the display is slightly lower than the plastic parts, otherwise your display will crack. I will now connect the headset to the power source to check if everything works properly. As you can see, the RGB LED works. This basically means that the Persephone board is working properly. If you look through the HDMI connector hole, you should also be able to see a blue light blinking. This means that the driver board is working fine as well. So now we can disconnect the display from power and proceed with the next steps. Now I will install the main visor part. This piece goes directly on top of the display. Just like before, you attach both pieces using self-tapping screws. Thankfully I have a lot of them. And here you can see the visor part after screwing all of the screws. It uses total of 4 screws. So now we can install the lens module. The lens module goes directly on the top of the pillars on the inside of the visor. And of course it uses self-tapping screws. Make sure you have installed a total of 4 screws. Of course the headset still needs some kind of face padding. Thankfully this headset is fully compatible with the original Quest 2 accessories. I've designed it this way to make it as comfortable as possible. You can install the facial interface by simply pushing it inside the plastic part. Make sure to push it until you hear the clicking sound. And now the facial interface is finished. You can press it against your face and see just how comfortable it really is. So the headset is pretty much finished now, but it still needs a head strap. Just like with the facial interface, my headset works with the original Quest 2 head strap. This one is slightly different however, since it comes from AliExpress. The headstrap installation is super simple. It basically just pops onto the plastic pieces that we added previously. Just push it in until you hear the click sound. And now do the same for the other side. And now the headstrap installation is finished. The headset looks quite alright, and I think it's a huge improvement compared to the first one. However, it still needs a ping pong ball for the positional tracking. For this step, you will need a real ping pong ball and quite big screwdriver. Make sure your screwdriver is just as big as your LED. When you have the hole ready, you can place the ping pong ball on top of the RGB LED. You will need of course hot glue to prevent it from falling off. Now wait a while for the glue to cool off and you should now have a working positional tracking system. You can now connect your headset to your PC and check if it works. If you connected your USB cable and the RGB LED is not working properly, you can fix it by opening the Arduino software and starting the serial monitor. When you do this correctly, the RGB LED should now show a correct color. In this case, mine is green. Now you can connect the HDMI cable and check if the image is alright. As you can see, my cable fits perfectly inside the plastic hole. You can also now see the Windows desktop through the lenses. Also make sure that you have your display correctly set up. It should be put as horizontal. If you don't know how to set up the Hades VR config file, you can make your life easier with this simple user interface tool. And now finally you can start the Steam VR. Wait a while for it to open. And you should now be able to see the Steam VR home environment. And just like that, the headset is now finished. It works with all Steam VR games, so you can pretty much play whatever you want. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching everyone and hope to see you in the next video. And as always, huge thanks to my patrons. See you later and goodbye.